Hey everybody, Dustin Harris. Quick mini-sode for you, just a thought to consider. It's something I've been thinking about over the last couple of years, and it recently came up in a conversation that I had with with a mentor of mine. We were talking about business in general and talking specifically about my business. And, I don't remember the exact conversation, but I do remember he asked something to the effect of, why have you been able to do more than your competition? In other words, he was talking specifically about volume, and he knows my business pretty well. So he knows that I do at least 4 times the volume that my competitors do, and he wanted to know what it is that I have done in general that has allowed me to do that. And he kind of was pinning me down. He kind of was pinning me down on one specific thing. And so I want to tell you what came to my mind, but I first want to remind you we're sponsored by Anow Software. Of course, Anow is the software that I use to work on my business and not in my business. Every Monday, I have an opportunity to look at the analytical side of my business. Anow makes it easy for me. Go to anow.com/coach. Once again, it's anow.com/coach. Okay. So my mentor was kind of pinning me down, and he was looking for one thing, and it's not just one thing. That's a non sequitur. It's not possible for me to just boil it all down and say, hey, here's why I've been able to do more volume than my competition. But he wanted a one thing. He wanted a one-liner. He wanted a sound bite. And so I gave it to him. After a little bit of thought, I said, the big difference between me and my competitors, I think, and the reason I've been able to do more, if you will, more volume than my competitors and still stay competitive as far as my quality goes, is that I don't do what my competitors do. Okay. That seems like a no-brainer. It sounds like I'm answering a question with the question, and I'm not. So stay with me. So his question is, why are you able to do more with less? And my answer is because I don't do what my competition does. I learned this a long time ago. Now, you may know my story. My story is basically, I've been in business about 22 years. I've been doing appraising longer than that, but I just, when I tell people how long I've been an appraiser, I typically tell them my start date, which was 1996. Okay, so I've been doing it about 22 years officially. And for the first 12 years, for the first dozen years, I basically did what every other appraiser was doing. Now, how do I know that? Well, I had a mentor, of course, as we all do. I had friends that were appraisers. I had enemies that were appraisers that I, got to know a little bit it's another story for another day. But I think I had a pretty good handle on what other appraisers were doing. I saw it very up close with my mentor, and I had an opportunity to rub shoulders with other appraisers. Not every appraiser has that opportunity, but I did. I had one individual that sticks out to me as just being a grandfatherly figure who took me under his wing, was very kind to me. We would meet probably twice a month on average, very non-official. We didn't schedule a meeting. I happened to live about 30 minutes from his hometown, and I appraised in his hometown. He didn't find that to be offensive. He didn't see me as competition. He was just a friendly gentleman that I had reached out to in the beginning to help me to learn the area. And I found out that he liked Coke. And so I, on probably a bi-monthly basis, would go to the local convenience store when I was in town. Made time, didn't have time, but made time to purchase a Coke and walk down to his office and sit down and hand the Coke to him. And we would sit there for about an hour and a half and have a conversation. And I got to know his business model pretty well. And guess what? It was pretty darn close to my mentor. It was what my mentor was doing. Now, here's what's interesting is as you look at their business models and look at other appraisers' business models, and now as an appraiser coach, I have a very intimate view into various appraisers' lives and their businesses. I sit down with appraisers on a regular basis, whether they're a member of my Dream Team Mastermind or I've done some personal coaching with them, but I will sit down and we will go through the books. I'll be honest with you, it's not my favorite part of my job. I'm not a book person. I don't enjoy that part, but I do think that I have an expertise there. I can look at someone's books and I can see, the income, and I can see the outflow, and I can see the balance sheets, and I can see the profit loss statements, and it allows me to get a pretty good picture as to what they're doing and how they're accomplishing things. And then, of course, we take that to the next step and we say, let's tweak this a little bit. Let's change this. Let's improve this and make it better. And so we do that. But the point is this: I have had a unique view into the lives of many different appraisers, not just my mentor and not just this other mentor that I told you about, and not just other appraisers, back when I was starting, but I've been doing this coaching thing, 6 years now-ish, and I've had an opportunity to look at the intimate business relationships, intimate business details of multiple appraisers across the country. Now, in one way, it's a little bit different because these are individuals who have come to me and they are at least willing to try something new. Okay, so they're at least at that level. But I've looked at other appraisers that are not necessarily at that level. I do know a few appraisers currently who are not utilizing my services as a fee service. These are just people that I know, and I know a little bit about their business, and I can tell you, folks, that I am very confident in saying that the reason I'm able to do what I do is the very reason for the question. And the question, again, from my mentor is, why are you able to do 4 times the volume as any of your competitors? And the answer to that question is because I don't do what my competitors do. I want to go into more detail as to what that means specifically. But first, I want to pause here and remind you we are sponsored by Anow Software. Speaking of doing things differently, folks, I doubt your competition is using Anow. And if they are, they've got a leg up on you, folks. Check out Anow Software if you want to be able to manage what happens in your appraisal business. I talked a few minutes ago about profit loss statements, about balance sheets. Another big part of making sure that my business is running properly is looking at Anow software on a very regular basis. What does that mean, a very regular basis? Well, at least weekly, I take an opportunity to sit down and look at the numbers. I take an opportunity to really analyze what's going on in my business. How many appraisals am I doing? What's the typical turn time? How many of these are late? I'm able to derive decisions as a business owner because I have the data at my fingertips. You can too. Check them out. It's anow.com. Just go to anow.com/coach. Why do you want to go to /coach? Go to anow.com/coach, folks, and what you will be able to do is you'll be able to belong to my all-star team for 3 months free. Just by going to anow.com/coach and signing up for Anow software. Try them out. You will not be disappointed. Check out the All-Star team at the same time. You, of course, will not be disappointed there either. Again, it's anow.com/coach. And folks, we have a new sponsor here at the Appraiser Coach podcast. Before I let the cat out of the bag, let me just set this up by saying a recent survey by the National Consortium of Professional Appraisers shows that AMC engagement letters are, on average, 8.3 pages of 9-point typeface verbiage. Yeah, that's right, folks. 8.3 pages of 9-point typeface verbiage. That's right. And you're expected to read every word of that engagement letter. The typical readers read about 200 words per minute with about 60% comprehension. That's a true fact, folks. Now, that means that if you actually read all of them, and I'm sure you all do, of course, you'll spend approximately 3 weeks out of the year reading engagement letters. Don't you love these kind of statistics? Do you lose sleep over this, folks? Well, introducing Engage, okay? It's ENGAG, the most innovative use of text-to-speech software ever. Your engagement letter is automatically dropped into Engage folder, converting to a podcast and uploaded to your smartphone. Imagine the thrill of not only listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast, but listening to your engagement letters while you're at the gym, walking the dog, or even while socializing with friends. Caution, I do not recommend this while driving. It can cause drowsiness. In fact, the most popular time to use Engage is, that's right, bedtime. Instead of keeping you awake at night, engagement letters can lull you to sleep like a baby. Engage, compliance done while you sleep. engagement letters instead of counting sheep. And welcome back. Another mini-sode for you today. We're talking about doing things differently. Specifically, I was asked by my mentor, why am I able to do 4 to 5 times the volume that my competitors do? And the answer to that question was because I don't do what my competitors do. You've probably heard me say that when you do what everybody else is doing, you get what everybody else is getting. And I did that for all too many years. And what that basically meant, folks, was that I was living paycheck to paycheck, literally. As sometimes when the paycheck wouldn't come very fast, it was pretty scary. It could be very scary for a while. That's not a way to live. Not only that, but I was working 60, 70, 80, sometimes 90 hours a week. I kid you not. I had at least a couple weeks that I worked 90 plus hours a week. Insane. Do the math on that. It's easier to calculate how many hours I actually wasn't working. And I'll tell you, it is grueling. And I know a lot of you are in that situation. This is what I want you to do today, just to step back and examine your life, examine your business for just a second and ask yourself the question, where are you currently and where are you going? Where do you see your business in 2 to 3 years? I often start my mentoring sessions with that question. When someone calls me, I ask them to give me a little bit of a background on where they've been, where they're at, describe for me your business model. And then the $64,000 question is, where do you see yourself in 2 to 3 years? I find it interesting. A lot of appraisers actually don't have an answer for that. Their answer is, well, I don't know, I guess. And then they start to talk through what they think that they might want. Well, folks, if you don't have a clear vision of what you want, it's pretty hard to get there. It's really hard to get there. But that's not the purpose of today's podcast. The purpose of today's podcast is to ask yourself, do you want to be your competition? Do you want to constantly be neck and neck with your competition, or do you want to do things differently? And the answer in my life was, if I want to keep doing things like my competition is doing them, I guess what, folks? I'm going to keep getting what my competition is getting. That's a no-brainer. Whatever you do that looks like, what do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting different results. Well, how many years, folks, have you been doing the same things over and over and over and getting the same damn result? Isn't it time to change that? Isn't it time to change that and start looking at your business differently than your competition? Now, again, the answer to the question for my mentor was multitudinal. I could rattle off 100 different things that make me different than my competition, but it all comes down to one principle. And the principle is, I don't give a crap what my business competition is doing. I don't care what my peers are doing. I don't. The only reason I care is that I want to look at that and say, well, you know what? That's interesting, but that's not me. I'm different, and I'm going to do things differently. So that's my recommendation for you today, is that you look at your business differently than your peers, that you do things differently than your peers, that you are different than your peers, and you will get different results if you do different things. Speaking of doing something a little bit different, have you considered joining my Appraiser Academy? Every month, folks, we meet online. Now, we've talked today about doing things differently. Do you want to know the details about how I run my business? Do you want to know the details about some of your peers who are high producers and how they run their business? Well, guess what? The Appraiser Academy is not just me, Dustin Harris. It's also high producing appraisers from across the country. My entire dream team is in the Appraiser Academy. Okay. That's the caliber of people that you will meet with on a regular basis, interact with, ask your questions to on a monthly basis, live and recorded for you to follow up later. Please consider joining us if you are interested in taking your business to the next level. I would highly encourage that you become a member of the Appraiser Academy. It is absolutely guaranteed, meaning if you're not happy, you just tell me and I will refund every penny that you spent on it. I guarantee you, folks, listen to this. I guarantee you that the money that you spent on the Appraiser Academy, the time that you spend away from your business, away from working in your business to work on your business and be a part of the Appraiser Academy, will come back to you and then some. You're not going to lose any money, folks. You're only going to gain the efficiencies that will allow you to make that money back and more. Check it out right now. Go to theappraisercoach.com and go to memberships. Catch you next time.